Back.
Gentlewoman from California is recognized for 3 minutes.
I thank the gentleman for yielding. And Madam Speaker, I rise today to offer a prayer for our nation. President Abraham Lincoln, during the height of the Civil War and during a very low point in American civility, once told a hushed crowd, "My dream is of a place and of a time where America will once again be seen as the last best hope of earth." My friend, all of our friend, Arizona Congresswoman Gabrielle Giffords, has believed in that dream for her entire life. Today, she represents a beacon of hope, perhaps our last best hope, to restore some measure of civility to the important public debates of our day. This is not a time to be finger-pointing. Rather, this is a time in memory of all those who died or who were injured during this dark day in our history, to start talking again like friends and neighbors. Right now, we should be praying for Gabby and all of the other victims of this horrible ordeal. We should be searching our soul as a nation, asking one important question, a question Abraham Lincoln confronted every single day of his presidency. How have we allowed hateful rhetoric to paralyze our national debates? Yes, we all have different points of view, but we should discuss them and we should debate them without resorting to name-calling or questioning each other's motives. Gabby has always stood for civility. She is the most delightful and the kindest member of Congress, and I think we've all said that. Her never-ending smile and her unfailing willingness to work in our nation's best interests have earned her the respect of people everywhere. I, like all of my colleagues, cannot wait for the day when Gabby walks back onto this floor and she joins us. She is a strong woman with a very unbreakable spirit and a passion for life, her family, her friends, and our great nation. Let us all pray to give Gabby the strength to carry her through the difficult days ahead. I believe with all of my heart that Gabby was put on earth by God to make a difference, and she has. I know because she's made a difference in my life. So the next time that a debate heats up and threatens to get ugly, let's remember our responsibilities as leaders. Let's remember what Abraham Lincoln said. Let's take a deep breath and agree to disagree agreeably. Let's do that for Gabby. I yield back the balance of my time.
Gentlewoman yields back. Gentleman from Iowa.
Madam Speaker, at this time I recognize for 2 minutes the gentleman from Mr. Loebsack.
Gentleman from Iowa is recognized for 2 minutes.
I thank my colleague and friend from Iowa for recognizing me. Madam Speaker, I join my colleagues, my constituents, and all Americans in mourning for those who lost their lives in this weekend's heinous event, and in praying for those, including our dear friend and colleague, Congresswoman Giffords, who are fighting to recover. I've had the honor to serve with Gabby, like many in this body, on the Armed Services Committee since we were both elected in 2006, and I've always been struck by her intelligence and by her commitment to her constituents. When she and her constituents were attacked on Saturday, she was carrying out the most central of our responsibilities as elected representatives, as was already mentioned, and that is making ourselves available to our constituents. That this horrific attack occurred in the middle of a gathering that is the basis of our representative democracy is a reminder to us all that we must all remain constantly committed to upholding the principles upon which our great nation was founded. As we come together to offer our prayers to all those involved, I hope that we will carry forward the sentiment that so many have expressed in the last few days, including on the floor of this House of Representatives, that our country's commitment to passionate debate is the heart of our democracy. But that debate must also be rooted in civil discourse and mutual respect. We can and we should debate with vigor the pressing challenges facing our nation, but we must do so in a way that moves our country forward and that is constructive. In part, that will require us to recommit ourselves to civil discourse and honest debate, as well as to remaining accessible to our constituents and listening to all viewpoints. We are a nation, I believe, that rejects violence. And on a day when we saw really the very worst of humanity, we also saw the very best, individuals who were willing to lay down their lives to save others. Let those folks serve as our inspiration, and let us continue to to keep all those affected in our thoughts and prayers and continue to move forward in America in a constructive, positive, and mutually respectful manner. Thank you, and I yield back.
The gentleman's time has expired. The gentleman from California.
Madam Speaker, this time I'm privileged to yield 2 minutes to the gentleman from California, Mr. McClintock.
Gentleman from California is recognized for 2 minutes.
I thank the gentleman for yielding. Madam Speaker, I haven't gotten to know Gabriel Giffords very well yet, and I thank God that by His grace I haven't lost the chance to do so. I didn't know those Americans who came to speak with her that day. But what I do know is that they gathered last Saturday to do something uniquely American. Gabrielle Giffords was reaching out and listening to her employers, the American people, and they had come to offer her their guidance and advice and counsel. In this respect, the attack on Gabrielle Giffords and her constituents struck at the very heart of our process of representative democracy, that very point where the American people communicate their views to their elected representatives. That is the linchpin in the entire process of self-government. This was not only an attack on those who serve, it was an attack on every citizen who steps forward to offer honest advice and counsel, and yes, even criticism, to those they have selected to serve them and to serve the nation. It is the nature and strength of participatory democracy to have sincere and passionate differences of opinion. But in moments like this, we see the very best of the American people come forward. We put aside our differences and disagreements, and we stand together as one nation, the American nation, one race, the American race, one people, the American people. Men and women of goodwill cease to be Republicans and Democrats. We suspend our political agendas. We silence the partisan recriminations, and we stand together as Americans. By doing so, we pay supreme honor to our fellow citizens who were felled in the exercise of their rights and responsibilities as a free people. We salute the heroes who, without a moment's hesitation, rose to resist and stop this craven and depraved attack. And we assure the world, as Lincoln said, that that government of the people, by the people, and for the people shall not perish from the earth. I yield back.
Gentleman's time has expired. The gentleman from Iowa.
Madam Speaker, I'm pleased at this time to yield 2 minutes to the distinguished gentleman from Texas, another colleague from the Armed Services Committee, Mr. Reyes.
Gentleman from Texas is recognized for 2 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I thank my colleague for yielding. Today I rise on behalf of the people of the 16th District of Texas to express our community's profound sadness in the wake of Saturday's senseless act of violence that claimed the lives of 6 Americans and has left our esteemed colleague Gabrielle Giffords fighting for her life and has affected 13 others. Ironically enough, last week on Thursday, we had a meeting of the Border Caucus, and Gabby came to that meeting, and we discussed the agenda for the 112th Congress. I can tell you that she is a tireless champion on border issues. She's an incredible member, dedicated to representing the people of her district, and I, for one, have had the pleasure of working with her on border issues, on military issues, and intelligence issues on many occasions. Over the last few days, my office has received an outpouring of support for Gabby, for her family, and for her staff, as well as everyone else who was affected by this tragedy. Madam Speaker, when I was in my congressional district this past Sunday, I was approached by a gentleman who I recognized who said something to me that I thought was very touching. He said, "Congressman, I often disagree with you on many issues, but I want you to know that I'm praying for your friend from Arizona and for you. I hope she keeps up the fight and pulls through." I, of course, expressed my appreciation on behalf of all of us and shook his hand. Madam Speaker, in the aftermath of this tragedy, one of the best ways that I know of to honor the victims is to come together as Americans, as so many members have said, and to speak with one voice against the violence and the hate that claimed the lives of both Republicans and Democrats, Americans all, both young and old. Our thoughts and our prayers today and since Saturday have been with Gabby, her family, as well as all those victims and their families affected by this terrible tragedy. It's up to us now to move forward in the same spirit that they have shown as they persevered through this terrible time. So with that, it rests on us to be better. As Mark's brother said from space, it's a peaceful planet. It looks peaceful. Sadly, it is not, but we can do better. We must do better. Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I yield back the balance of my time.
Gentleman's time has expired. The gentleman from California.
Madam Speaker, this time I'd like to yield 2 minutes to the gentleman from Pennsylvania, Mr. Thompson.
Gentleman from Pennsylvania is recognized for 2 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Today our thoughts and prayers are with all those who were taken from us last weekend in this horrific tragedy in Tucson, Arizona. Our nation stands with